Hello, 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 and welcome or welcome back to this week's episode of Rhetoric with Shakia. I'm Shakia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about Love Overboard. It's over on Hulu. I watched it recently. It is messy, but there are some things that absolutely stood out to me, and so I want us to talk about it. Now, if you are not familiar with this series, think Love Island, except the cast, they're not in the villa, they're on this luxurious yacht, and they don't have bombshells, they have shipwreckers. And so we're not going to talk about all the episodes, and we're not going to talk about all the couples, but we are going to talk about one couple in particular, or dare I say throuple. And if you are familiar with this series, you already know who I'm talking about. So enter David, Lauren, aka Lo, and Val into the chat, okay? Let's go ahead and get started. So when this series opens, all the singles, they get on this yacht and they have to couple up. From the beginning, David and Lauren were a couple. David also said from the beginning, he likes a particular aesthetic. He has a particular type. His type, he said, is plastic. He said he likes the big old fake boobs and the BBL. He said he likes a plastic look. And Lauren is not plastic. And he said this. He was like, Lauren is very natural. But he said, I'm willing to give this a shot. Maybe I shouldn't keep going for who I usually go for. I'm willing to give this a shot. Okay. So then at one point, I think it was episode 2, David becomes either sick or injured during one of the challenges. He has to go to the hospital. Lauren says she's asking production, can I go with him? They say, okay, sure. She accompanies him to the hospital. They get back to the yacht. He tells her how much he appreciates her for being there for him. He says, thank you for showing up for me. He expresses his gratitude. But again, and maybe I didn't say this already, their couple, this couple, it's and then Val, because at some point we're gonna talk about her, right? It's a masterclass in misalignment and not being truthful and the outcome of that. So, okay, stay with me. He's, appreciative of Lauren. Naturally, Lauren is like, okay, cool, we are solid. We are building something here. And she's excited about it. She's telling people, we're getting married, we're having kids, we're locked in. And I'm like, Lauren, stop it. Like, this too much too soon. You just got on this yacht with this man. You just met this man. Stop it. But then I'm thinking, you know what? What is David telling her? And perhaps David is telling her some stuff that we are not seeing. And that also sounds very familiar, right? If you watched Love Island, but okay, we're gonna get off Love Island. Anyway, I'm watching and listening to Lauren and her excitement, and I'm like, stop. You just met this man on this boat. Like, stop. But again, what is David telling her? So what it does look like is David is feeding her a certain level of emotional reassurance, and she's responding to that. She's responding to the reality he is creating for her while they are on this yacht. And we see a little bit of that, okay? Let's talk about David a little bit. David is very handsome. He's very handsome. He comes off as emotionally mature, intentional, and grounded. He's very mindful, very careful with what he says and how he says it. But from what we know, watching him around Lauren, watching him interact with Lauren versus who he is when he's talking with his buddy on the yacht, or who he is when he's speaking more honestly in the confessionals, we see a different David. In his confessionals, he talks about this lack of sexual satisfaction, and not just in his confessionals, even with, I can't remember the guy's name right now, but he talks with one of his friends at the time on the yacht, and he's like, look, we have been intimate a few times and I have yet to reach full fulfillment. Now I'm paraphrasing here. And so he starts questioning whether or not the two of them are sexually compatible. And he's like, all of these other things are great, but this one thing isn't. And he keeps going back to, I've been in relationships before where things were good, but we weren't sexually compatible and that didn't work out. Now that's a fair assessment to make in the sense of he's noticing perhaps a lack of sexual satisfaction in his couple with Lauren. That's not the issue. The issue is that is one of his key issues with Lauren, but he does not communicate that to Lauren. So from day one, David had a type. Remember that. Lauren physically is not his type. And when somebody says, I am trying to look past that, for me, that is a red flag. Even though I know that physical attraction can grow, I just wonder, is it genuinely exploring a connection, or is it trying to convince yourself to settle for something, right? And this is larger than just David and Lauren. This is a general question that I have when this typically comes up. Again, I know that physical attraction can grow. So David not being initially, and I'm not saying he's not physically attracted to her. I don't think that's true. I just think she's not his physical type. Lauren is attractive. She does have a different build, a different physical aesthetic than what David said he liked, right? But Lauren is absolutely attractive. But the larger question is when somebody says, I'm going to look past my physical type, is it that person trying to convince themselves to settle for something else? Or are you genuinely exploring this connection? Here's why I wonder about this as it relates to this particular couple. Because now, enter Val. Val comes on board as a shipwrecker and she gets to wrecking. No. Val is David's type. And in every sense of the word, she is physically different from Lauren. Different race. She has a curvier body type. Different, to some extent, facial structure, like bone structure. And yet, this is David's type, and Lauren is aware of that. And so Lauren lock eyes. When the two shipwreckers come on board, she's like, oh, shoot. Okay, what's happening? And she said, well, I'm going to tell them that David is already married. We're married. We're planning kids and all of that. And these are things that she would also say in front of David. And he didn't actually stop her from saying that, like, no, chill, or, we're still exploring. He didn't say any of that. He kept quiet, or he would laugh, but he didn't say, hey, don't do that. So watching the show, when she says, we're having kids and we're getting married and we're locked in, we're so locked in, you're looking at her and you're like, she is delusional. Girl, stop. But then on the other hand, you recognize she is probably repeating what he sold to her and what he told her, which we get a glimpse of that. Because again, he doesn't actually say to her, I never said that. But those are things that they've talked about. They talked about having a life together off of the yacht. So she's not actually being delusional. So at one point, Val pulls David, she pulls him aside and she's chatting with him to get to know him. Lauren sees that. Lauren is like, we are getting married. This man is a married man. Don't do that. Back up. She interrupts the chat and she's like, it's not happening over here. So Val is like, I'm supposed to get to know everybody on the boat. And Lauren essentially says, you ain't got to know him. You are not getting to know him. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but low-key it was close. What does David do? David says he wants to reassure Lauren that she has nothing to worry about. So he asks her to be his girlfriend. Of course, she says yes. The next day, Val asked David to go out on a date. And so they did. And it escalated very quickly, Within the first few minutes, they are making a whole lot of physical contact, okay? That physical touch was real with them. They're in a spa, so naturally, and they have to give each other massages with honey and stuff. I'm like, that is sticky. That's nasty. What's happening? I don't know. It was too much of it. I didn't like it. I just thought it was going to be messy, and it looked a little messy. So the first part, the physical touch is there because it's built into the date. You know, they're rubbing each other down and whatnot. So then naturally, because you got honey on you and you're sticky, you got to go wash that off. So they're in the jacuzzi or the pool. They're in something, okay? They get in a body of water. And now the physical contact doesn't stop. Then they go to the showers because still naturally you got to wash some of this stuff off of you. They go into the showers. We don't see it, but we hear some stuff goes down. No pun intended. Because if you watch the show, then you know what, well, it was Val. You know what happened, okay? They became sexually intimate rather quickly. Now remember, the night before, David asked Lauren to be his girlfriend. Lauren said yes. So at this point, while he is on a date with Val, he has a girlfriend back on the yacht, Lauren. I don't think David remembered Lauren when he was on this date with Val. I don't, because the way that date escalated, all that, it was very, very fast. David, when he gets back to the yacht, because of how the show goes, he has to make a decision. Who is going to stay? So now they're on the plank. Whoever he doesn't choose, they get dropped into the water. And he keeps going in his mind, talking about how Val is more of his type and they seem to be more sexually compatible, and he's not getting that from Lauren. He never told Lauren this. So he has these people on, and by these people, I mean the whole cast because they're watching, but specifically Lauren and Val, they're on a plank for about 45 minutes and David is just quiet. And at this point, I'm like, this is embarrassing. Also, I'm wondering, were you ever actually attracted to Lauren? Or was he attracted to how Lauren showed up for him, how she catered to him, how she was down for him, how she looked out for him? Is that what you were attracted to? And so you thought, well, I could deal with this. And did Lauren fall for him, or did she fall for his representative, the David that showed up because that's the version of him that he wanted her to see? Because it didn't take but a minute for him to turn his head and literally do some things with another woman while your girlfriend was back on the yacht. You know, is going outside of your type growth? Is it growth, or is it something else? Because again, I do think you can date out of your type, but that does require a level of maturity, a level of emotional maturity, a level of honesty and communication. Because we also know, let's be clear, that relationships are not solely sustained on physical attraction. Is it an important part? I think so. Is it the only thing? No. Because you can be with your physical type and y'all could be toxic as hell together, right? Because what else comes along with that? If nothing else is growing, if nothing else is evolving, you're just with an aesthetic. But what's beyond the physical, attraction? So while physical attraction is important in a relationship, it is not everything. And if that's what you just keep going back to, are you also trying to deepen your relationships? You know what I'm saying? Let me know if you know what I'm saying. So this is no shade to liking a particular type. But also let's add in honesty and emotional maturity in these relationships. So anyway, he has these women on this plank for 45 minutes just standing there. After asking Lauren to be his girlfriend, he chose somebody else. He chose Val, and bloop, Lauren went into the dang on ocean. because he chose somebody else. Sir, you knew this already. Why would you make her stand there for 45 minutes? That's embarrassing. You already came to the conclusion that you wanted something different because you gave Lauren a chance despite her not being your physical type. You said, okay, let's try this. You tried it. Then when you all became physically intimate with each other, it wasn't what you wanted it to be. And perhaps you weren't as excited about being physically intimate with her because you weren't as physically attracted to her. Perhaps. So then the moment you see somebody who is what you want, plastic, that's what he said, you become more excited. It's more appealing. And they get busy within the first 15 minutes or so. You're like, oh, hell yeah. But you never communicated what you felt was lacking when it came to Lauren. You didn't communicate that with Lauren, David. Anyway. Because they pissed me. David pissed me off. Not Val. To be clear, this is not a shot at Val. This was David's doing. Val came in and did what she was supposed to do as a shipwrecker. Val came in. Val was herself. She saw somebody who she was attracted to. David, she said she is attracted to him. She said he is her type to a T. So already they have that going for both of them. Both of them are physically attracted to the other. The issue isn't Val. The issue also isn't the fact that David chose Val. Let's be clear, because this is what the show is. The issue is that David did not communicate what was going on with him with Lauren, who he was in a couple with, who he asked to be his girlfriend. So what's the takeaway here? The takeaway is that this is an example of how emotional inconsistency creates anxiety in relationships, and how clarity is more important than chemistry. Chemistry is important, yes. Chemistry is great. Sexual attraction is great. Physical attraction is great. Yes, yes, yes. But also clarity is important to sustain a healthy relationship so that nobody has to wonder where they stand with the other person. Nobody has to wonder whether or not you're actually down for them. Nobody has to wonder any of that. Because even though somebody is not your physical type initially, that doesn't mean that there can't still be love and honesty and trust. You get what I'm saying? So chemistry and all of that is important, and yet clarity is also required so that we don't have people wondering where they stand with you. Why bring in uncertainty when it's not needed? This wasn't just messy reality TV. This was poor communication. This was misalignment. This was emotional avoidance. And no, Lauren wasn't being delusional. Lauren didn't look crazy. Lauren was being misled. And there were opportunities for David to keep it 100 with her, and he did not. As we wrap up this episode, I do have a few questions for you. Do you think attraction can grow? Have you ever dated outside of your type? And at what point does giving someone a chance become leading them on? I want to hear from you. If you watched the show, especially, drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't watched this series just yet, go watch it. Come back, and we can definitely keep unpacking it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you for spending a little bit of time with me. And I really hope that you come back for the next one. But until then, bye for now.